Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And it's my pleasure to be able to welcome you today to today's Stats Cafe on data-driven planning tools. I know it's just on the hour, but I want to make sure that we start on time because we've got 4 speakers to hear from, and I want to make sure we've also got enough time at the end for you to ask your questions. So I'm Rachel Bevan. I'm the Director of Statistics Division here at ESCAP, and I've got the pleasure of welcoming you to today's session. So I'm sure we all know, most of us are statisticians, that we need to have better data. But I think often as statisticians, we're a bit less focused on how the data is actually used by policymakers, and actually also working with them to make sure that we make the best use we possibly can of all the existing data we already have without necessarily automatically going and collecting new data. So I'm really pleased today that we've actually got 3 different presentations where people are going to explain the different tools that they have, which are designed to help policymakers to use data. And then we've got the 4th speaker, Gabriel Gomez from UN Statistics Division, who's going to wrap it up and talk a bit more generally, and also who will be able to moderate the question and answer session. So as ever, can I just remind people as well, keep yourselves on mute if you're not speaking, keep the cameras on if you're presenting. That's fantastic. It makes us feel like we're not completely alone as we are here. So also please do use the chat bar to post your questions, but also it would be great as well to hear from other people on other things that you are doing as well. So do feel free as well to put those in the chat bar, and then at the end of the session there will be time for question and answer. So without further ado, I want to hand you over to our first speaker, who is Aman, who's from ESCAP, and I will let him then go through and introduce the next speakers as we go through. But a huge thanks especially as well to all the speakers, because particularly for Gabrielle, I think it's around 11 or 12 at night. And for others, it's equally not that great a time. So we really do appreciate you joining us live. So thanks very much, and over to you, Aman. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel, and good day to everyone. My name is Arman Bidar Bakhtia. I work at the Statistics Division of ESCAP. Today we have 4 speakers, as Rachel said, including myself, who will be speaking on the EPIC tool. We also have Rajiv Ranjan, Innovation Team Lead from Paris 21, who will be talking about ADAPT tool, and then we'll have Elena Proden, Senior Specialist, SDGs and Strategic Implementation of the 2030 Agenda at UNITAR, who will be talking about Statact tool, and finally Gabriel Gomez, Interregional Advisor, Organization and Development of National Statistical Systems from UNSD, who will be talking about how these tools can all work together for us. And then Gabriel will also moderate the question answer session. So please post your questions in the chat during the presentations, and we'll take them after the 4 presentations. And I thank all of you for keeping your microphone and video off if you're not speaking. So as the first speaker, let me share my my screen. Okay, hope you can all see my presentation. Today I will speak about a tool which is developed to support policy and data integration to leave no one behind, which I will talk about how it does that. The tool is Every Policy is Connected, and today I will focus more on different use cases and how this tool, in what kind of circumstances this tool can help us to improve our statistical system. Rather than focusing on how the tool works, I will be talking about what it does for us, actually. Let us first think about an ideal situation that all of us wish to have. We all, at the country level, have policy documents basically address the policy priorities in the country. We also have international commitments such as SDGs. At the indicator level, we also have indicator frameworks used to monitor our policy implementation, as well as indicators at the global and regional levels, again, such as the SDG indicators. Ideally, we all wish to have all of this aligned and integrated. Global policy priorities integrated into our national plans being fully monitored using national indicators, and international indicators also being aligned and used at the national level when relevant. So if we think that our systems are in an ideal situation, still it is good to assess and assure that they are. So in the first case, EPIC can help us to assess whether and to what extent our policies and indicators are actually aligned and integrated. But the world is not perfect, right? You can also imagine a case where things look good at the national level. You have your all priorities formulated, reflected in your policy documents. All the policy documents have good coverage in terms of indicators and being monitored, but the alignment of the global commitments or targets are not 100%, or you have not fully integrated your global indicators international. Again, EPIC here can help you to establish those linkages and assure that they are aligned. Another case, the use case scenario, which is, in my opinion, the most common, is where we have all the elements, we have all the ingredients, national policies are in place, indicator frameworks are there, but we're not 100% sure about how they're aligned. We have done made some effort, but we're not sure that they are basically fully integrated. And that's where EPIC can help you to make sure that the global commitments are fully integrated into your national priorities. The indicator frameworks are comprehensive and they're fully linked with your results frameworks, and you have made the best use of international indicators for national monitoring. And another second very common use case scenario is when you have basically integrated very well international commitment into national plans. For instance, you have integrated SDG targets into your national plans, but at the indicator level, there might be some indicators, but they're not fully reflecting all the issues that need to be monitored. They're not, either they're absent or they're not complete. In this kind of scenario, again, EPIC is very helpful to develop a comprehensive indicator framework for you, making sure that every issue that is being addressed by the policy is also being monitored, and every population group of concern is being reflected in your data. The last case scenario which I want to share with you is a situation in which you basically either revising your existing policies or you're formulating a completely new policy. And in that case, again, EPIC is helpful to develop monitoring framework. Now, how it works very quickly, for any given policy document, the work, I appreciate, colleagues, if you mute your microphone. Thank you. For any given policy document, the work starts with reviewing the document in a user-producer dialogue to identify the key issues that need to be addressed by the policy and need action, as well as those priority target groups in the policy. Through this process, broadly speaking, you produce three main outputs. first of all the key issues that need to be addressed by the policy, both existing issues and also emerging ones, will be clarified. So this is the data need. The second is the priority target groups will be also identified, and this is going to be your data disaggregation requirements. And finally, you can develop a comprehensive indicator framework for your policy document, through which you have integrated global and regional indicators, as well as identified your disaggregation requirements. You can access the tool by through the EPIC homepage by sending a request and to the EPIC team, and ESCAP will get in touch with you to better understand your need and help you to use it in your national context. Some countries have already used or started to use EPIC. In Samoa, it was implemented on tourism sector to develop indicator framework. In the Philippines, it was piloted on gender policy. Bangladesh now is in the process implementing it on disaster risk reduction to develop indicator frameworks. ESCAP is helping also Brunei Darussalam to integrate SDGs into their national plan, and that's where EPIC is helping ESCAP to do so. Mongolia is developing new policies, and 3 of those are using EPIC to develop indicators: social development, human development, and national competitiveness policy. Thank you very much. I stop here, and I would like now to invite Rajiv to give his presentation. Rajiv, over to you.
Thanks, Arman. So I'm going to talk about ADAPT, or Advanced Data Planning Tool. Let me share my screen too and see if it works. Yeah. Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we see your screen.
Do you see it in a presentation mode,
yes,
Arman?
Presentation mode.
Thank you. So I'll take a couple of minutes to explain the tool called Advanced Data Planning Tool, or in short, ADAPT. This is developed by Paris 21, and it has been in use for some time now. It's a free cloud-based online application. You can see on the screen a screenshot of one country which has used it to develop their national data plans, or NSDS, or national strategies for development of statistics. This is a screenshot of Tanzania. We have worked with them from the very beginning, but then there are like more than 30 countries who are using the tool right now. Each country manages their own instance of the tool. So each country gets a unique ID of the tool. It's also supported by many multilateral development partners like World Bank and UNDP and other organizations. So what it does is basically allows the national statistical system agencies to come together on an online platform and plan the data required by different development frameworks in a transparent and efficient manner. So how it works, if I spend a bit of some time to explain this, you can see it on my screen on left side. There is a diagram where it explains that the public policies are where the demands are concentrated. Public policies could be at various levels of planning. It could be at a subnational level. It could be at a national level, like national development plans. It could also be at a regional level and global level. Global level, you can easily get an example through Sustainable Development Goal indicator. So all these public policy sides represent the demand for data for their monitoring. On the supply side, on the right side of that image, you see the data sources. different kind of data sources. It could be demographic health surveys, it could be mixed surveys, it could be household living condition surveys, or administrative sources of data or other sources of data, which then produces these observation values. And then the tool allows both the demand and supply to be compared and identify the data gaps, which is represented in the center of the image. Now, the data gaps could be many. Data gaps could be absolute data gaps that, for example, if the indicators required is not available at all. Data gap could be like also partial, such as if it is required in certain disaggregation, but it is not available in those disaggregation, then that is a data gap. Data gap could be also time dependent. If it is required every year, but the data is coming every 5 years, then that is a data gap. And also data could be also geographically disaggregated, and there could be a gap as well, such as data gap or data required at the subnational level, but only produced at the national level. So all these data gaps are identified with the help of this tool, which then allows the countries or national statistical offices to plan by allocating different resources, what skills and knowledges it requires, and how to manage such processes. So ADAPT allows different kind of pathways for different situations in countries. In some countries, it is about SDGs and Sustainable Development Goals readiness assessment or domestication. In some countries, it is about planning for the National Development Plan, what data are available, what data are not available, and it could also be specific to a sector, such as gender data needs assessments or agriculture data needs assessment. And then the tool also allows to monitor the data plans once developed. Now, what do I mean by data plans? Data plans are typically the plan to develop or produce the indicators, and in the community, typically known by NSDS or National Strategies for Development of Statistics. Now, here are some screenshots that I have picked from the application to illustrate how the tool allows to monitor the data plan activities. Now, the data plan activities, once they are identified, they can be implemented in a time horizon of 3 to 5 years, depending on country to country. Some countries choose to have annual work plans. Some countries have long-term plans. But whatever is the arrangement, you can monitor it in 3 ways. One is the status of the data plan, whether it is ongoing, completed, postponed, not started, or canceled, right? That's the status of the activities. Second is that it can also be monitored by the indicators assigned to each of these activities, such as a training workshop for, let's say, enumerators. If a country has decided that we will have around 5 training in, let's say, next year, that is a measurable indicator that can be tracked in ADAPT. And final tracking that can happen in ADAPT is also about the budget information, that how much of each activity is fully funded or partially funded. If fully or partially funded, then who are the organizations which are funding these activities, or if the case be not at all funded. So these are some of the results that you can get from ADAPT. And this is about monitoring of the data plans. But before we come to the monitoring, the tool allows you to identify the data gaps. The tool has advanced functionalities to bulk upload the data, such as demand frameworks, and also allows the API connections to extract the data from the tool to be displayed somewhere else on the cloud. On this slide, I'm showing some resources which are available for everyone to use. We have a user manual which details how to start with ADAPT. You can go deeper into this, and also you can understand a bit more of the tool by taking this online course. We also regularly organize workshops and webinars. We have a user community of ADAPT users, and you can create your own instance. We call that sandbox to experiment with the tool. So you can create your own instance of ADAPT by your own email, and then you can experience the tool. So the tool is essentially a data planning tool, which allows you to identify the data gaps. And after the data gaps are identified, it allows you to monitor the data plan activities by status, by financial resources, and by indicators. Thank you. Arman, over to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thanks very much. I would like to hand over now to Elena for her presentation on the Statact. Elena, please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arman. I'm going to share my screen. So, let me just quickly say a few words about Statact. So there are three keywords that one can use to describe what Statact as a tool is. We say that it's tactical, it uses tactical approach, it's action-oriented, and it's collaborative. So I'm going to go through each one of them very quickly. So first of all, tactical. What does it mean? When we think about the difference between the strategy and the tactics, in fact, the strategy is something that we would like to achieve over a longer term period. These are objectives, for example. So we would think about the national strategy for the development of statistics and the tools that support mid-term or longer-term planning. Tactics, it's about how do you want to achieve it. Quite often, it's a tool that you can use in a short-term horizon to be able to address more specific challenges and operationalize the implementation of the strategy. Here we use a metaphor with the river being the strategy. So we decide to take the river, go by river, and boat being the tactic. So how exactly we would do it, that would be by boat. And then also the boat then would allow us to adapt to different circumstances given a specific year, and also work in these specific contexts, be it flood years, drought years, go around some unforeseen objects, etc. Statact can be helpful in different situations. We started using it essentially initially with the countries who were struggling to fill in some priority SDG data gaps or data gaps in their national development plans. Then it can also be useful when one needs to respond to unexpected challenges. For example, those that we had to deal with in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. When a lot of business processes had to be adapted, and the tool can be useful also to reorganize your work and plan in a new way. Then another area could be one Statact could be useful. It's about addressing bottlenecks in the implementation of the national statistical plans or SDNSs. For example, there may be some areas during midterm review that you would identify as being particularly problematic. They may be priorities, but very little progress has been made in those areas. Statact can help you to bring your key stakeholders and try to understand what the root causes are, why things are not moving. and then also find solutions that would help you to make faster progress in those areas. Statact can be useful also in supporting operational level planning. For example, in some countries there are annual planning processes. So in particular for example, in the Latin American region, we've seen where this is the potential that Statact has. Then it can be useful also for running experimental projects. Again, here it's very important to bring a key community of stakeholders to discuss together. There are no blueprints, so how is it exactly can we work together? And what do we need to do to run these experimental projects? It can be useful in the context of technical cooperation projects, and you will see why as well. It's not only a tool that allows you to develop a solution, but also to make it more specific, to budget it, and then also monitor implementation. And it can also be useful for fundraising proposals, and it has also built-in functions, for example, to print out the action plan, to print out also progress on implementation. Now, the second adjective that describes it, it's action-oriented. So let me say a few words quickly about that. What does it mean? So there are several key stages in Statact. You can see here on this screenshot that inside basically the application, there is the overview. This is not a stage in itself. It's just a page on which you could see some key important information. And then there are 4 stages in the Statact process. The first one is related to problem statement and business case. This is as a group, where as a group you can refine your problem statement and build a good business case to convince those who are important to your solution within the group, but also outside the group, that it's important to address it urgently as a priority. And this is where also you work through by identifying your key stakeholders. Then there is a stage that is called problem analysis stage. So here, basically, you reflect on the key indicators that are relevant to your data problem and also related data sources. And sometimes also what may happen is that you may be interested in one specific indicator, but the root cause that you will identify would be related and would help to improve on your data source in general. And when this is the case, it can also help improve and address some challenges related to a number of indicators. So here also we use 2 important models, GSBPM and Gamzo as well. So we look at the process side, going through various stages of the generic statistical business process model. Quite often, your key challenges, root causes would be related to just 1 or 2 of the stages. And the idea here is really, in fact, you may identify several areas, but you need to focus on the ones that would be critical to really finding a solution. And then finally, you do the same with a Gamzo, looking more at the institutional aspects. And again, you try to identify where your root cause lies. What is it that, in fact, your problem is? May it be related, for example, to partnerships, and how exactly you can address it, looking at solutions. Should it be, for example, the signature of MOU, etc. Based on this problem analysis, you move to the action plan stage. This is where you can design your action plan, and I will show a screenshot in a moment. And then finally, there is also an interface to track the implementation of the action plan. So here you can see, for example, just the top of the action plan, where in fact you can work around your solutions that you've already developed in the previous stage. And then make them more specific. You can add actions and tasks. Also identify what is the responsible agency, what are the, in some cases, you may wish to add an indicator, but as this is the tactical level, you don't need to do it for everything. So the indicators might be particularly useful when it's not a binary indicator, but it's something that you want to try to improve on. Then also you can see that there is a functionality to build the budget. And finally, you can see on the top the total timeline. This is the aggregated timeline between various actions. This is the interface for the tracking the implementation of the action plan. And you can see, you can also review progress together as a group, for example, to discuss the impact, how impactful the action was, and then also review progress in terms of implementation, and also, for example, persons who are responsible for specific tasks, they can also mark the progress here. And finally, this is a collaborative tool. What does it mean? That this tool works, in fact, by invitation. So it's a closed tool that works by invitation to a specific group. So you can basically, you sort of set up your project team, and the persons who should be involved in this project team, you can invite them by email to participate. And once the persons are in, basically, they can, for example, participate by sending messages to the chat function. And depending on the level of your user level, you can also, for example, make modifications and type. And it's also possible to see the history of changes, as you can see on this slide. So what is it exactly that, what are the different levels, sort of user levels here, is that there is one level, this is the national administrator level, or it can be also regional, global. This is more related to international organizations who would like to have their SAP site. So the national administrator, it's the person who manages the subsite. Then national administrator can set up projects and manage key country information, add, for example, national indicators and also key documents. And also national administrator assigns project managers. This is a quite technical role, in fact, whereas the project manager is the one who is really the substantive lead on addressing a data gap. Project managers then can modify main contact for the project, invite other members to join, and also manage sort of key information, including the action plan, etc. And also the project manager may give editing rights to other members. And finally, project members are simple users who can, by default, type in the chat box, also mark and monitor and mark completion for the assigned tasks. And sometimes they can also edit if they are given such rights by the project manager. I would just like to say at the end that this tool had been used in more than 30 countries. So we've been working particularly initially with the small island developing states where there were specifically needs related to the production of SDG indicators. And some of you from the Asia-Pacific region, you may recall we still use the old version of this tool at that time. So now we have a new interface, and we are also in the process of running this new interface. We used it with the Philippine statistical authorities, and now we run several projects also in the Latin American region. And we would be happy to provide support on the use of the tool with the interested countries. I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Elena. And we now hear from Gabriel how we put these pieces together. Gabriel.
Thank you very much, Yelena, Arman, and Rajiv for the presentations. And of course, now after one presentation after another, the main question is that how are these different tools interrelated? how can we make them work together? And this is very quickly, I'm going to go through this. I will share my screen also, and the idea is that Stats Café, here is a presentation, if I'm correct. Let's see if it's the one. Yes. Is it in presentation mode?
Yeah.
Yes, Gabriel.
Okay, excellent, very good. I mean, I discovered a new way to put something on. So we had 3 different tools that are actually, and you understood that's the point of the presentation, working well together. The first tool is what we call EPIC, the Every Policy is Connected tool. That it's actually the tool that is the closest to our users, to the policymakers, because this is the tool where we decide together, or we identify what are the needs and what kind of data do we need. We have a second tool that comes after that one that was also presented after EPIC, which is ADAPT. ADAPT is a tool that was developed by Paris 21 when EPIC was developed by ESCAP. ADAPT is an advanced data planning tool, and the word planning is very important because it's the tool where you build up the infrastructure that you would need to produce the data. So with EPIC, you know where you want to go. With ADAPT, you build the road, and with Statact, you may decide to take the boat, like Yelena presented it, but you may also decide to go by bike or by car. So basically, with Statact, the last tool, this is really the tool when we are at the production mode and we analyze a different step of the production and eventually identify bottlenecks and try to solve jointly with a different stakeholder, these bottlenecks. And then the last step, of course, at the end of the whole thing is that we get to the data. And you can see that actually I was using another slide a few seconds ago. I complemented that one that you can see on the top. You have policy, and at the bottom, after annual work plan, I had data. But unfortunately, this is the version that was saved last week. Now, we all like to work because we're statisticians. We like to work according to the GSBPM. The GSBPM, the generic model, explains to us all the different steps that are related to the production of statistics. And these steps actually, if you look at GSBPM, do not start, and this is often a mistake from our users, thinking that our processes start with the data collection. Actually, the data collection step is rather at the end of the process. And you can see now here when and how these different tools interact at the different stages of the generic business process model for the production of statistics. The 3 tools are actually useful for the whole spectrum of the production process, but they are most specialized for a few of them. And if we start with EPIC, we of course understand that to assess and specify the needs, but are the steps that actually are the very first one in the process of the production of the data and the statistics that we need. EPIC is a tool, because EPIC, as we saw before, is a tool that helps us to interact with our users, the policymakers, to understand what do they need really for their evidence-based policy decision making. After that, once we have passed these steps, we come to the steps of plan or develop capabilities, design, and eventually build the infrastructure. On that level, we are with ADAPT, that is a tool that is also rather close to the national strategy for the development of statistics. So there we are working in order to enhance our capacity, our capabilities, including human resources, to be in a position to produce the information that is needed. Once this is done, we come to, I would say, the production elements or processes of our business process model. This is exactly when we collect the data, we process, analyze, and disseminate. On that level, if something is happening, because, for example, the tires of our bike is flat, this is exactly when we will use Statact, because we need, and Yelena explained to you that, we need to have a tool that very quickly, imagine we have COVID-19, we cannot go for surveys and censuses and for interviews. What do we do, right? So this is exactly when Statact can intervene, can be actioned to find a solution at these stages. And at the end of the process, we go back to the evaluation. The evaluation, of course, is fundamental for all elements or all stages of the process, but we also understand that the level of evaluation, we come back to EPIC, because this is actually the moment when we ask our users, are you happy with the data and the statistics that we are producing, right? We also understand that you don't need to develop capabilities and design and maybe assess the needs every month or every quarter. So these tools are long-term strategic tools. When Statact is more operational, because collection, process, analyze, and disseminate, for some statistics and indicators are monthly. So we need quick tools to solve these problems, when the other one are more strategic and longer term oriented. So these are the tools. You can see the little icon that I put down at the bottom. You have the magnifier. This is when you want to analyze the needs. Then we have the planning phase, development, and then at the end we have, of course, the production one. So now what is and why we have this meeting today with you, because we also need you, is of course to discuss with you how these tools are interoperable, but that's something that is important, how we can still improve this interoperability and the relevance of the tools, but to see also and to see with you if there are maybe some tools that exist already on the market. When I say market, of course, tools that have been developed by our partners that are available for free, that could even complement the tools that we already have between Statact, EPIC, and ADAPT. And I repeat, Statact was developed by Unitar, EPIC was developed by ESCAP, and ADAPT was developed by Paris 21. So we are in a little group that is called the Expert Reference Group, Data Planning. And if we identify new tools, for example, that are available on the market, please join us and work with us on making these tools even more interoperable and even more relevant for the different stages of the production process. So thank you very much for that. I hope that by this presentation, you understood a little bit better, if needed, how these different tools interact. And I propose now that we go for a question, a round of question. And before going further and trying to ask you if you know another tool that is existing on the market, we can already see if you have questions to our presenters, Arman, Rajiv, and Yelena, on the different tools, if something was not clear. So maybe we can start with that. I don't see here now questions in the chat, but if someone has one, you can raise your hand. I'm sorry, but since I was in my presentation, I could not look at the chat. So questions about the tool or the presentations that we had today? Please go ahead. If you have one, go ahead. Don't hesitate. Take the floor and ask your question. Is everything very clear? Is one of the presenters, you want to add something? Rajiv, Arman, or Yelena, is there something that you would like to add to your presentation?
Maybe, I mean, just while we wait for some questions to come forward. And here I see a question already. Is the ADAPT the only tool which includes financing in it? Well, not really, because financing as a process in the statistical planning can happen at different levels. And as Gabriel was explaining, financing is included at both at the strategic level as well as the planning level. What ADAPT, a tactical level, what ADAPT does is with financing is identify the cost of activities. It records the cost of activities and then identifies who is funding those activities, whether it is a domestic resources or is it an international organization who is supporting these activities, how much, and what is the funding gap. So yes, it helps you to identify the data gaps on one side, but it can also help you to identify the funding gaps on the other side. So that's the area that ADAPT covers on the financing side.
Thank you very much. And I know also that the Statact has also the financial side. Maybe Jelena, you want to say a few words about the planning and the finance?
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Perhaps indeed, I guess the main difference, as we were saying, is that Statact focuses on specific data challenges. So typically, it means that you have a group collaboration who discuss and work together to address a specific data gap. And quite often, what we've seen, and that was the reason also we developed this functionality to be able to print out the action plan, is that it can be useful also, for example, if there is a need for some funding, you can include the budget options when you build your action plan at the level of actions, basically. And then you can use then the sort of the nicely printed out PDF that includes in a very well-structured and transparent manner sort of all the key elements of your action plan, with the problem statement and business case, so why it's important to fund this activity, what exactly is that you are planning to do, who are the key stakeholders. And then you can also use this as a basically fundraising proposal to approach donors to help provide you with funding.
Thank you very much, Jelena, for that. I had a question from Petra. Do we know the extent to which the tools have been used by countries, and is there anything which should be done to get the tools used more? I think it's a very good question, right? I mean, where they have been used already, and what can we do, I mean, to use them even more? Because that's also a little bit the point of this discussion here, that we want our colleagues, in particular in national statistical offices, to understand how useful these tools could be for them. So, I mean, I don't know. So shall we start with maybe with Arman? Do you have a few examples of countries and
Yes, sure.
what we could do in order to use them more? Thank you, Arman.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel and Petra, for the question. As I presented, a few countries have used the tool. Of course, this has been facilitating so many workshops, but the countries that have actually implemented the tool on a specific policy were Samoa, the Philippines, the Bangladesh, Mongolia, and Brunei are in the process of doing that in different policy contexts. But the latter part of the question, which is very important and more difficult to answer, is what to do to make sure they're being used. I think all of these tools require a sort of mindset shift in the way we try to enhance our understanding of the data need and then respond to the needs. Traditionally, we receive a set of requests from the different parts of the governments or users, and then we try to produce data. Normally, we don't go out, try to better understand what are actually those data needs and what are the areas that are being prioritized, implemented, and relevant, but we don't yet produce data because there is no effective demand for those. And if we try to basically be proactive in better understanding the data needs and also establish a joint ownership of the indicators between the data producers and the data users. And that's when we naturally will need some sort of a structured dialogue and some sort of systematic assessment, which means what these tools actually do. They bring a structure to our work and they help us to do it systematically. Because the nature of the activities that are being implemented through these tools is that there are continuing activities. It is not a one-off thing to do. Of course, you do it once, but they will help you to establish a mechanism through which regularly you update yourself with the kind of need that for data and for disaggregated data from the policymaker. So again, I think we need to really change the way we work with our users and the way we actually address the needs for data in the system. And then automatically we will need to use this sort of tools, either these tools or our own tools that might be existing already in the country. Over to you, Gabriel.
Thank you very much, Arman. Can we go now to Rajiv? Also quickly, maybe the countries that have been using the tool and what could we do in order to use it more?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. Actually, we have seen the demand coming from countries at different stages of their data planning cycle. In some cases, when countries are in the beginning of designing their NSDSs or National Strategies for Development of Statistics, that is when they see the need to do a data gap assessment. But it is also important, and as Arman said, that this process is a continuous process, because once the cycle ends, it will again be a new NSDS. And if it is not a new NSDS, again, it is with the sectors. So for example, I mean, gender statistics, gender data gaps is another area where we are supporting countries to identify the data required to meet the gender data needs in different policy frameworks. So I think more collaboration and identifying the areas of efficiencies in data planning would lead to more data use of these tools. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yelena, on your side, what can we do in order to make these tools even more useful and more used? That's something that is, of course, important.
Thank you, Gabriel. We actually use a two-folded approach. The first one is to sort of demonstrate the tool to NSOs and then discuss together with them how, because exactly as I showed, you know, there are really different ways in which you can use it. It can be helpful. And then discuss specifically what is their specific situation, what the need is, and also see how we can help them to sort of build their ownership of the subsite so that they could run it on their own. And the second approach is when we work on other data projects. Just to give you one example, for example, we work on with the NSOs to help leverage more citizen science data. Quite often, these are the projects that require some brainstorming initially with the key stakeholders. We are doing such work. For example, now we are providing support to Maldives on 2 indicators. And then Statact can be very useful then to help structure the discussions and develop the action plan with these key stakeholders. And key stakeholders could involve, for example, other members of national statistical system, also your data users from policymakers. It can be also civil society organizations, for example, in this case, who work with citizen science data. And then it can also be, for example, other international agencies, UNEP, and other, for example, organizations that are involved, Bird International, for example, who are involved and who are the custodians together with UNEP for some of the indicators that we are selected for these projects specifically. So I think it's sort of a two-folded approach to see where the tool can help in supporting some of the projects that we help countries to advance on as international organizations. And also the tool can be also used by international organizations who could also have their own subsites to run the projects together with countries. And then it's also worthwhile discussing for which projects, for example, if these are regional, you have several countries, you would use your agency subsite. But then if these are, for example, projects that are specific to a country, then it's best to invite a national statistical office to run the project, and then as an agency, you would participate together with them. So these are the 2 ways we are promoting the use of the tool.
Thank you very much. I mean, one thing that is rather clear from your presentation is that, of course, the tools themselves don't have the solution. The tools are there to structure the way we are thinking, making others to join us and collectively, right? I mean, to get to the solution. So the solution, we have it, but it helps us, I mean, together, not alone as a person, but as a collectivity, as a group. We have the solution, but the tool is very important because it's structured the way we get to the solution and eventually agree upon that solution that we will have to take. We have tools, of course, that are like Epic, closer to our data users, right? Where we really start with a dialogue with them and identify what do we need, where do we need to go. We have another tool that is Adapt that helps us to build this infrastructure in order that we can go where we have to go. And eventually we have Statact, which is the tool that helps us to produce the different statistics at the more operational stage. And as we know, I mean, we can be very good in identifying the needs, in building the infrastructure, but are always small things on the road that make us a little bit difficult for the journey. And Statact is exactly that tool. So they are beautifully complementary, these tools. They help each other. Of course, within this group, and maybe you can say a little bit more, maybe Rajiv, what is the objective of this group that we have set up, and in which way we can also invite others to join us to improve even further, and we can, the interoperability of these tools, because we don't want to feed them all separately. If possible, if we feed one of the tools with information, it would be beautiful, maybe not tomorrow, but in a few months or years, that once we feed a tool, we have fed also all the other one, and we don't need to restart the process, right? So the interoperability and the complementarity, how can we still improve that? And how can we welcome others to join us? Rajiv, maybe?
Thanks, Gabriel. So, I mean, it's a very interesting development that has happened once we realize that there are so many development partners who are trying to create some solutions for the national statistical systems, and we call it a group, I mean, expert reference group, because there are few specialized agencies who are working on this area, and we are just three tools that we have shown you in the group that we discuss about, but it's not a restricted group, and the idea is to bring on board other tools which are out there used by national statistical offices, supported by development partners, and see how they can exchange data, how they can be more useful for country needs, how they can help countries to choose which data is appropriate, which tools are appropriate for them to use at different stages of statistical processes. So if you are a development agency, or if you are a national statistical office or a national, an entity in national statistical system who is aware of such tools, who are using such tools, please reach out to us, and we would like to have discussions and try to bring together these tools and see how the synergies can be achieved in their uses, so that we don't duplicate and be more useful to country needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. I mean, Arman, do you want to say a few words also from your perspective, ESCAP? It's a little bit the conclusions, right? Because we're getting close to the end of this hour. So if you have a few words, welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gabriel. Well, I really want to appreciate your support for organizing this cafe before anything else. I thank you for joining us today, and not the most convenient time. And as Rajiv said, we have just started a network of experts working on these tools, and I would like to invite my colleagues from national as well as international organizations who are either interested or are developing or implementing similar tools anywhere in the process of identifying needs to evaluation, in the process of production and use of statistics. Please feel free to write to us, any of us, and then join us on this network. We have just started, and we are hoping to be able to do some joint activities in countries. And even if you find these tools useful for your country, please reach out to us and we will work together to make sure that we are reducing the overlaps as much as possible and work with you to make this and tailor this to your needs. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in other occasions related to these tools and implementations.
Thank you very much, Arman. I mean, I will still go to Yelena. Of course, you will have the honor to say maybe the very last words before we close this session. Please, Yelena, go ahead and tell us a little bit how you see the future of these tools and how we can work together.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. I think we've throughout the whole work, we've seen that partnerships are very key to help us address the needs of the countries and stakeholders we are working with. Actually, I would just like also to take this opportunity to mention when we started developing Statact, we worked very closely with UN Statistics Division, and Gabriel was actually involved very much also in that work. So we piloted it in a number of countries. And when also we worked in the, we already had some examples where we used the tools together. For example, when we were running the workshops in the Pacific region, we worked together with ESCAP and the SPC colleagues. And we also had countries such as Samoa, for example, who used both EPIC and Statact tools. And also when we did the first pilot workshop with a new interface with the Philippine Statistical Authority, we did it together also with Rajiv because they were using the ADAPT tool. So I think what is key is to see, of course, with each country and partner when we work with, if there is usefulness in bringing other stakeholders and that you see that there is an interest also from the NSO to use other relevant tools, then I think it's a good opportunity also to involve colleagues and have this conversation together. So that's what I would say, that I think now as a community, with the knowing more about each other's work, we can also be more effective in helping countries to address their needs and bring colleagues and have the conversation together as may be needed.
Gabriel, I'm afraid you are on mute.
So, thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very much for your presentations, also for answering the questions. I would like also the people that have been participating in this meeting. For some, like me, it was 1 a.m. So on Monday, sorry, I'm still confused. For some, also very late already on this Monday. But I think it's very important what we can do for the international statistical community is to better explain the tools, make them even easier to work, and also explain better how and when use one and the other or more than one tool. But in return, please take contact with us if you're aware of a tool that exists. I know that, for example, in ESCAP, so basically our colleagues from the UN in Beirut, they also have developed a tool. Unfortunately, not with us today, but I'm sure that they're going to join also our group to further work together and further develop them. We want definitely to make tools that are useful for you, for better statistics, better data, for more informed policymakers. So thank you very much, everybody. I would like also to thank Rachel and congratulate you on your nomination, even though it's a little bit late, probably you are here since a while, but it's really a pleasure also now to work still with you. We have been working already before, but from the other end now, right, in Bangkok. So we are all very happy and excited to have you on board. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thanks, Gabriel. Thanks, everyone, for a fantastic Stats Cafe. Have a good rest of the day.